The Boy, the Master, and the Seven Questions. Chapter 9. Question 4. What happens when we die? On the fourth day, the boy is eager to see the master, since unlike the third day, he knows exactly what he wants to ask him. As he approaches the cave, he sees him walking back with the variety of fruit he had just picked. The master greets him with a smile, saying, "My student, what do you have for me today?" The boy speaks, "Master, I understood all the laws and how they govern our existence on earth, but what happens when we die?" The master instructs the boy to sit while he takes his fruit inside the cave. When he returns, he tells the boy to come with him. While they walk, he tells the boy to carefully observe everything. First, the boy observes a female zebra called a mare giving birth to her offspring known as a foal. Next, he sees a mother lioness keeping close watch over her cubs as they walk in the wild. Then they pass a dead bird lying motionless on the ground. Finally, they observe plants and trees that were sprouting, as well as some that were dying. After they return to the cave, the master tells the boy to sit, and then he asks him, "What did you see?" The boy replies, "Master, I saw a great many things, but there were two things I noticed most: all manner of birth and death." The master pauses, regarding the boy, who seems ready to soak in every bit of wisdom from him. He says, "I have told you of cosmic laws and of natural laws. I have spoken of the two energies that govern reality. Now I will tell you how all these came to be. The infinite source creates everything so that it may know itself. It is above all laws and principles. It is pure light and pure energy that is exempt from duality and cycles. But being the one source, it is where everything originates, but also where everything must return." The boy responds, "Master, I think I understand, but could you please explain it a little further?" The master begins to speak. "I have told you these things so that you may understand all aspects of life. Now I will explain how these tie in with death." The boy sits up, listening intently, as the master begins to speak, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. In this physical realm, everything is connected to its source. When it dies, it returns to that source. A tree comes from the earth, so when it dies, it returns to the earth. The fish of the seas come from water, so when they die, they return to the water. The stars in the heavens are formed from the cosmos, and after their long cycle, they return to the cosmos. The master smiles and says, "You are wise beyond your years, so I tell you this because I know you will understand. It will all make sense in the end. In the physical realm, there exist two patterns that must be present for existence to be: duality and cycles. Duality is the pattern of opposites. Unlike polarity, duality is two opposing forces that grow or subtract at the same level as each other. Everything has an equal and opposite force. The more there is life, the same amount of death must be present. Light force has dark force, while good force has evil force, and so forth. Duality is the equation pattern of the living force constantly trying to balance itself. For every number of births, duality must have an equal number of deaths. For the amount of good, there will always be the same amount of evil. I know this is hard to accept, but this is how nature keeps balance." The boy asked, "So, master, is there no way to rid Earth of evil?" The master explains, The only way to totally tip the scales is through total awareness and the dissolving of the will and ego. As long as there is separation, will and ego exist. Good and evil will always be present. As long as there is the illusion of birth in a physical body, death will always be there. If we were to awaken to who and what we really are, death would be no more. Do you understand this, my student? The boy nodded that he did indeed. Then the master explains that the next pattern is the cycle of nature. He went on to say that everything exists in cycles in the physical realm, so it all has seasons. This means there will always be a spring, summer, fall, and winter. Because this is the cycle of all living things, in humans there will always be birth, youth, maturity, and death. Because this is the cycle of all things. Some cycles are very short, while others are very long. However, in the end, all things balance out to the greater equation of life. Once a person finishes its earthly cycle, it too goes back to its source. So also is the fate of man, the end of whose dual existence is to also return to both of its sources. The body comes from the earth, so when it dies, it returns to dust. Once the body dies, the spirit must return to its source, which is the infinite one, the single source of energy and light. The boy is eager to ask more questions, so he responds, "But master, the infinite source doesn't die? Are you saying our spirits never die? And if our spirits never die, do we come back to this earthly realm? Do we reincarnate?" The master replies, "You are correct, my student. The spirit never dies. Only things in the physical realm dissolve. Once the spirit returns to the source, it is no longer bound by the laws of the physical realm. As the spirit unites with the source, a review of all of its physical realm's experience happens. You could call this a life flashing before your eyes type moment. If the spirit has more to learn or further development is needed, the spirit will reincarnate. How long and how frequently this process takes place, no one knows. But if the spirit has matured and is totally aware and enlightened, so that it has learned pure love and compassion and pure understanding, that spirit breaks the reincarnation cycle. It leaves the source no more. But for a spirit to reach that level takes ages and ages of development. So reincarnation is what usually happens. You may have been here many times before, and you will be here many times again. However, you, my young student, seem to have a very wise spirit, a wise spirit indeed." The boy replies, "Thank you, master. You are way too kind. But what you have said leads me to ask, why don't we remember our past lives?" The master chuckled and exclaimed, "Wise indeed. The reason you don't remember is twofold. One is physical, while the other is spiritual. The physical reason is that in the material realm, you are governed by a physical brain, which has limitations. This mortal brain doesn't have the ability to handle and process that many lives, experiences, emotions, and lessons. Everything would run together and the brain would break down. The spiritual reason is this: while united with the infinite source, you consist of pure thought, moving faster than time and space. When you decide to incarnate into a material body in the physical realm, you begin the descent of slowing down, a hard process that takes about 9 months as your physical body develops inside a mother's womb. In agreeing to incarnate, you agree to experience the full development with your physical body from birth to death. So you may have a full new experience to learn all over again. Your spirit partners and pairs with the body, and they take the journey together. Hence, the cycle begins again. The master then tells the boy, "Remember this lesson and let it govern how you view your life and death. With this knowledge, you now know there is nothing to fear or mourn about death. Go home and meditate, and I will see you on the morrow." The boy rises from his place at the fire and thanks the master. Then he says, "I look forward to learning more on the morrow."